Hey, as we think about dreams, I wonder, do you remember your dreams? Do you remember the dreams that you had last night? Anybody? No? Okay. Maybe you didn't dream at all. I don't know. I think about dreams, and I think I remember probably 50% of my dreams. And then there's other dreams that I don't remember. But here's what I do know, that of all the dreams that I do remember, I know I've had them, right? The dreams that I don't remember, I don't know if I've had them. So I think I remember 50% of my dreams, but I probably remember 100% of my dreams, because if I don't remember them, I probably didn't have them. Does that make sense? Did I lose you? It's all good. Thinking about dreams, I was doing some research, and I discovered that there are several different types of dreams that we can have, and I want to share some of them with you. I want to see if you've ever had any kind of dreams like this. There are recurring dreams. These are dreams that you have over and over again. Have you ever had these? A dream you just keep having over and over again. There are daydreams. This is when part of your brain falls asleep while you're awake. And what occurs in your brain during a daydream is actually similar to what happens when you go into deep sleep at night. And so during the day, if you ever have a daydream, what's happening is part of your brain is falling asleep, and it's going into this deep sleep kind of state while you're still awake. And so there's daydreams. There's also false awakening dreams. This occurs during REM sleep, REM, rapid eye movement, where you wake up in a familiar place and you go about your day, but you're actually dreaming the whole thing. Have you ever had this? Like, you wake up and you think this is real life, but it's not. It's just a dream. That's false awakening dreams. And then there's lucid dreams. These are also, they happen during REM sleep as well. And it's when you wake up inside of a dream and you realize that you're dreaming, and then from this point, you can control the dream. These are my favorite kinds of dreams, where I wake up, I know I'm dreaming, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be an amazing dream now because I get to control it. And so then there's nightmares also, and these are frightening dreams that involve intense negative emotions. So different kinds of dreams that I'm sure we've all had at some point. And thinking about nightmares, Forbes magazine reported that the most common nightmares for men, I want to see if maybe these are some of the nightmares you've had, men. Some of the most common nightmares for men in this order are falling, being chased, and being attacked. Most common nightmares for men. Here are the most common nightmares for women. Being chased, and this is in order, being chased, falling, losing teeth. You ever had that? Losing teeth, being attacked, and being cheated on. 5 most common nightmares for ladies. But here's what I find fascinating. In the list of nightmares that Forbes gave, there is one nightmare that is not recorded. And I think this is a common nightmare. I think it's one each and every one of us have had. I want to find out by your reaction. Here's a nightmare that's not in the list. It's being naked in public. Have you ever had that dream? You ever had that nightmare? It's just me? Are you kidding me? What? I thought this was a common nightmare. I don't know. But being naked in public is a horrible thing. And I won't tell you about my nightmares anymore because you just leave me up here. But I have had some nightmares, and I have this one nightmare that is that's about you. Like, you are in my nightmare. And I have this every once in a while. I've had it for years since leading a church, and just recently, probably the past 5 or 6 months ago, I had this nightmare. And here's kind of how the nightmare goes. It's about a Sunday service, and so I'm here, and in my nightmare, the service starts, but nobody is here. Like, nobody is in the seats. And so the service starts, and then the singers don't know the words, and the words are wrong on the screen, and the sound is off. And then when I get up to give the message, again, nobody is there, right? And it's like, what is going on? And then sometimes in that nightmare, there are people there, but then I forget what I'm going to say, and so I'm just standing in front of you, and it's a disaster. Preacher nightmares, right? Thankfully, you don't have those nightmares. You have nightmares about other things. And actually, speaking about your nightmares, I want you to think about the nightmare, the craziest nightmare you had, the craziest dream that you had. And I want to invite you to turn to the person next to you. No, I'm just joking. I thought about that. I thought about having you turn to the person and tell them about your dreams or nightmares. But I don't think you would. And if you did, I don't know if the person would be ready to hear what you have to say, because we dream about some weird stuff. We dream about some crazy stuff. And if I asked you to share it with somebody, you might just make it up. Because again, like when we think about our dreams, when we think about our nightmares, some of what we dream about, some of what we have nightmares about are just crazy. And it'd be kind of awkward to share that with somebody. Especially if you think about the weirdest dream that you've ever had. But thinking about dreams, I do want to talk about dreams today. We've been in this series, Bloodstained Pews, and throughout this series, we've been talking about being real, being open, being vulnerable. One of the values that we have in our church is real is all we know. And so throughout this series, we've been talking about being real with our sin, being real with all sorts of different things in our life. Being real about our family. But today I want to talk about being real about dreams. Being real about dreams. And the dreams that I want us to be real about, that I want us to focus on today, are not the dreams that we have when we're asleep. It's the dreams that we have when we're awake. Because we have dreams when we're awake. We have dreams, we have visions, we have desires, we have goals, we have things that we want to accomplish and see happen in our lives. But sometimes we're not real about it. Because if we are real about it, about being real about our dreams, if we're real and open, being real and open with somebody about our dreams is pretty scary. Because you got some dreams. And if you share your dreams with somebody, they might laugh at you. You might feel dumb if you told them what your dreams are, because your dreams are pretty bold, pretty grand. Somebody might hear the dream that you have for your life and they might say, "Are you kidding me? There's no way." So it's scary to share our dreams with people because they might laugh at us. We might feel dumb. We might feel stupid sharing the dreams that we have. Yeah, the thing that I've really wanted to do, the thing I've really been thinking about, the thing that just excites me and fires me up is this. And somebody might hear that and say, "Are you kidding me?" And we'll feel rejected. So oftentimes we keep our dreams to ourselves. Sometimes we don't share our dreams because we're afraid of the rejection, but sometimes we're afraid of sharing our dreams because what if we don't accomplish it? What if we fail at it? What if it doesn't come true? Well, now I've told people what my dream is and I've failed, and that might mean that I'm a failure. And so I'll just keep it to myself. And what happens oftentimes, because of the dreams that we have, the desire and the vision and the goal that we have for our life, because we keep it to ourselves, that dream never comes to fruition. The dream dies within us. See, a dream that's not voiced will die. Why don't you think about your life? Did you have some dreams growing up that are dead now? Because you didn't voice them? Because you didn't chase after them? Because you didn't pursue them? Maybe you talked yourself out of that dream. That's stupid. That's silly. There's no way I could ever do that. And the dream that you had when you were a kid, when you were a teenager, when you're in college, when you're in your 20s, when you're in your 30s, when you're however old, the dream died. And you look at your life now. I wonder if this is anybody. You look at your life now, and you would admit and you would say, I haven't lived up to the dream that I had because I was afraid to take a step. I was afraid to do something. I talked myself out of it. I was scared. I didn't say it to anybody. And because of that, the dream that I had died on the vine. And my life would have been a lot different if I actually acted and did something about what I dreamed about. Today, I want us to get real about dreams. I want us to dream again. I want us to reignite the dream and the passion and the vision, the goal that we have for our life so that tomorrow can look different than it does today. So that tomorrow we can take a step toward the dream that we long to see take place in our life. Today, we got to be real about dreams because I want for you to discover the more that you were made for. Because what if you did? What if you discovered that you were indeed made for more and you began to live the dream? And not just your own selfish, ambitious dream, but a God-given dream for your life. And so as we look at getting real about dreams, we're going to look at the Old Testament at this teenager named Joseph, who we see in the Old Testament. He's going to help us when it comes to seeing some things about being real about our dreams. And so here's what we find in Genesis chapter 37, verse 2. It says, this is the account of Jacob and his family. When Joseph was 17 years old, now Jacob is Joseph's dad, so Joseph is Jacob's son. When Joseph was 17 years old, he often tended his father's flocks, and he worked for his half-brothers. But Joseph reported to his father some of the bad things his brothers were doing. So Joseph has a bunch of brothers, double-digit brothers, and Joseph is kind of a snitch. So his brothers are doing some bad stuff, and he goes to his dad and tells him about it. And one of the things that we see about Joseph is that Joseph becomes his father's favorite. And so he would report some of the bad things that his brothers were doing. One day, Jacob had a special gift made for Joseph, a beautiful robe. But his brothers hated Joseph because their father loved him more than the rest of them. They couldn't say a kind word to him. And so one night, Joseph had a dream. And when he told his brothers about it, they hated him more than ever. Listen to this dream, he said. We were all out in the field. We were tying up bundles of grain, and suddenly my bundle stood up, and your bundles all gathered around and bowed low before mine. His brothers responded, so you think you'll be our king, do you? Do you actually think that you'll rule over us? And they hated him all the more because of his dreams and the way that he talked about them. See, this is why sometimes we're afraid to talk about our dreams, not just dreams that we have when we're asleep, but dreams that we have in our waking everyday life, because we're afraid we might get rejected. Somebody might not like us. People might hate on us because of it. We might feel stupid because of it. Soon Joseph had another dream, and again he told his brothers about it. Listen, I had another dream. The sun, moon, and 11 stars bowed low before me. This time he told the dream to his father as well as to his brothers, but his father scolded him. What kind of dream is that? Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow to the ground before you? But while his brothers were jealous of Joseph, his father wondered what the dreams meant. And so what happens is Joseph has these dreams, and he tells his brothers and his mom and dad about these dreams, and the dreams that he has is that I'm going to rise to this place of greatness, and you're all going to bow down to me. I don't know how Joseph said it. I don't know if he said it arrogantly. I don't know if he just said it as a matter of factly. But he says this, and his brothers don't like him for it, and his dad is questioning him about it. And so it's almost like Joseph is being made out to be a little crazy for having these dreams. Who do you think you are? And so here's the first point I want to take away, though, from what we see in Joseph about dreams is this: dreams make me different. And so if you're taking notes, go ahead and take a picture of this. And if you're not taking notes, go ahead and take a picture of this so that you can just kind of see these different points, these takeaways that we see from Joseph's life about dreams in our life. The first thing is this: dreams make me different. When you have a dream for your life, it sets you apart. It makes you unique. It makes you different. Now, your dream might not be different. It might not be unique. It might be a dream that other people have as well. But the way that you're going to accomplish it and the way that it's going to come to fruition in your life sets you apart. And the truth is, everybody has dreams, but not everybody voices them. And again, most people just let their dreams die on the vine. So when you have a dream and you voice it and you say something about it and you pursue it, you chase after it, it sets you apart. Because you work with people who have dreams and they don't pursue them. You go to school with people who have dreams and they don't pursue them. You got friends, family members who have dreams, but they don't pursue them. And what happens when we have dreams and we don't pursue them, we don't voice them, we don't dive into it and chase after it, what happens is we end up settling in with the rest of humanity as just the same. But when you have a dream, and you chase it, you pursue it, you do whatever it takes to make it happen, it sets you apart. Dreams make me different. And so Joseph had this dream. He tells his family about this dream, and it sets him apart. It makes him different, and they don't like it. And that's another thing we got to keep in mind, that when we have dreams, dreams can be dangerous because not everybody is going to like your dream. Not everybody is going to support you in your dream. Not everybody is going to encourage you in your dream. But Joseph had a dream and he shared it. He said something. We also know that Joseph was set apart because he gained the favor of his father. His father gave him this robe, this beautiful ornamented robe that he wore. And what we find is that Joseph actually wears the robe. Like Joseph isn't ashamed of the robe. He doesn't hide the robe. He could have been, because now he has this robe. He's set apart. And again, there's some favoritism that his father shows him, so that's not good. And every time his brothers see the robe and they see Joseph, they're reminded of the favoritism, that they're not the favorite, that they're not the best. And so there's jealousy that stirs up in them. But that's about them, not about Joseph. Here's what we find with Joseph. Joseph has a dream. He's set apart. He's given this robe, and he wears it, and he speaks about his dream. Now, some people don't like it. But here's what you got to understand. When it comes to your dreams and you voicing your dreams, not everybody's going to like it. And that's about them, not about you. That's about them, not about you. What happens is sometimes we get some dreams, we get a vision, we get a direction, we get motivated, we get inspired. We're going to do this thing, and then we tell somebody, and they don't like it. They want to bring us down, and then we start to think there's something wrong with us. But Joseph tells his family about the dream that he has, and his family has a problem with it. Who has the problem in this scenario? His family, not Joseph. You tell somebody about your dream and they got a problem with it, who has the problem? They got the problem. Are y'all awake? Is it just me up here? All right. So when you share your dream, it is going to be scary. It's going to be dangerous because not everybody's going to like it. But what you need to know is that it's not about you, it's about them. And as I look at what Joseph did and when he shared his dream, again, I don't know if he said it arrogantly, I don't know his tone of voice, I don't know any of that stuff. But what I see is that Joseph just shared his dream. And then he had to pursue it. How others responded and treated him, that was on them, not on him. So if you're going to have dreams, they're going to make you unique. They're going to set you apart. They're going to make you different. But you also got to develop some thick skin. Because there's a second point that we see about dreams. So what happens is Joseph shares his dreams to his family. And he's rejected by his family. There's a time where his brothers are out in the field, they're working in the field. Joseph goes out to be with his brothers, and they say, now's our chance. So they beat him up, they take his robe off, they cover it in blood, they sell him to a slave trading party that's on their way to Egypt. And this is what happens with Joseph. So he has a dream, he's set apart, his brothers are jealous, and out of their jealousy, they respond negatively. They sell him into slavery. They cover his robe in blood. They take the robe back to the father, and they say, he got attacked by a wild animal. He's dead. This is all that's left. So the dad thinks that Joseph is dead. Meanwhile, he's traded into slavery. So as a slave, he lives in the house of Potiphar. He works his way up in the house of Potiphar to be the second in command in charge of Potiphar's household. But then there's a time, as we fast forward into the experiences of Joseph's life, there's a time where he's falsely accused of rape. That he wants to rape Potiphar's wife. It's not the case. Potiphar's wife, also known as Potiphar, she wants to be with Joseph. That's not really her name. But she wants to be with Joseph, falsely accuses him, and he goes to prison on this false accusation. So now Joseph is in prison. He thinks he's going to get out because of a connection that he makes. The connection doesn't click, and he loses that, and he stays in prison. And there's this sad verse in this experience of Joseph's life. Genesis 40:23. Pharaoh's chief cupbearer, the guy that he met in prison, forgot all about Joseph. Never given him another thought. So the cupbearer gets out of prison. Joseph says, hey, remember me. Say something to Pharaoh about me. The cupbearer says, I will, but then he forgets about him. So here's what we see in Joseph's life. Joseph has a dream. But he's sold into slavery. He's falsely accused. He's in prison. He's all alone and forgotten. He doesn't seem any closer to this dream from the day that he had it. Here's the second takeaway about dreams. So the first one is that dreams make me different. The second one is this: dreams require pain. Dreams require pain. Sometimes it's physical pain. Again, Joseph is in prison at this time. Sometimes the pain is emotional pain. Joseph has baggage from his brothers selling him into slavery. He has to deal with that. Why don't they like me? Why would they do something like this? He has to deal with all this emotional baggage of what happened to him in his life. Dreams require pain. Sometimes the pain is just the waiting. Joseph has this dream, and it doesn't happen overnight, but it actually takes about 23 years for it to come to fruition. Joseph is in pain. Dreams require pain. I love what Arnold Schwarzenegger said about pain in accomplishing his dream in bodybuilding. He said this: pain makes me grow. Growing is what I want. Therefore, for me, pain is pleasure. Pain makes me grow. Growth is what I want. Therefore, for me, pain is pleasure. Dreams require pain. See, dreams and the fulfillment of dreams aren't handed out. For your dream to come true, for it to be a reality in your life, it's not going to be handed out, but it's going to require some work. It's going to require some pain. Dreams are earned through pain. And with living the dream, part of the price is living with pain. There are no pain-free dreams. So your dream of being the best parent you can be is attached to the heartache and heartbreak and trial and error in parenting. You know, as a parent, if you want to be the best parent you can be, there's some pain involved. Your dream in creating a career that's fulfilling is through the path of painful waiting and setbacks and constantly showing up. Not everything's going like you want. You take a step forward, you take some steps back, but you got to keep showing up. There's pain involved. Your dream of being healthy may involve walking and lifting and stretching through achy soreness. You want to get bigger, you want to get stronger. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to require some pain. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be comfortable. If you want to be comfortable with pain. Because pain is a pathway to seeing your dream come to reality. It's the pain of 3 more reps. It's the pain of saying no to pie. I'm not going to eat that because I want to have abs. You got a dream. It's going to require some pain. Living for something more and leaving a legacy, making a difference and stepping out and up is tied with the pain that comes from critics, comes from haters, comes from people who misunderstand you, people who turn their back on you, people who don't believe in you. Pain plagues the path to living the dream. It's not going to be easy for you to accomplish your dream. And so we see this with Joseph. He experiences this pain. And then finally, in the event of Joseph's life, we see that a breakthrough comes. See, what happens is the cupbearer gets out of prison. He forgets about Joseph, but then there's this moment where Pharaoh has this dream that nobody can interpret. And then the cupbearer remembers, oh yeah, there was that guy in prison who interpreted my dream. He could probably help you out, Pharaoh. So now the connection comes through. Joseph is called up to Pharaoh. He interprets Pharaoh's dream. Essentially, he says, okay, your dream is about this, that for the next 7 years, Egypt is going to be experience 7 years of plentifulness, plenty, a lot, bountifulness. And then there's going to be 7 years of famine. And so this is what your dream is about. 7 years, it's going to be bountiful. 7 years, famine. And so here's what Pharaoh does. He says, okay, since you can interpret the dream, since you know what's going to happen, I'm going to make you second in charge of all of Egypt. All of a sudden, Joseph rises from the prison to the palace. The breakthrough comes through. And he's there now. Pharaoh says, you're going to be the second in charge in all of Egypt. I'm going to be the one who's in charge of all of it, and you're just below me. Now the breakthrough has come through. So Joseph is made second in charge of all of Egypt. He is the most powerful man aside from Pharaoh in all of Egypt. He's risen to live the dream. But here's what a position involves. Pharaoh says, you're going to be in charge of staving off this famine. So this famine is coming. We got 7 years of bountifulness. Joseph, you're in charge of making sure that we got enough stored away for the next 7 years. Joseph rises to power, second in all of Egypt, but his job is grain management. That's what he does. As a person who's going to fight against this famine, his job for the next 7 years is to manage grain. We got to make sure we got enough grain. We got to make sure we're storing enough grain. Joseph's job as second in command is data analyst. It's spreadsheet land. Like, this is what the job is. And then what happens is eventually the famine hits. And Joseph's brothers, the famine hits where they are. They come to Egypt because Egypt has enough grain. You know why? Because Joseph is grain management. They come to Joseph and they get grain from him. Now, they don't know that it's Joseph, so they stand before their brother, second in command. They stand before him. He's dressed like an Egyptian. He's speaking Egyptian. They think probably he's dead by now, so they don't know that it's Joseph they're standing in front of. And they get some grain, and then Joseph is talking with them, and he asks about their youngest brother, Benjamin. And so Benjamin was born right around the time Joseph was sold into slavery, but he asks about their youngest brother, and he says, I want to see him. Like, you didn't bring him. All of you came, but you didn't bring your youngest brother. I want to see him. And then he says, I want you to leave behind one of your brothers. Simeon is the guy that they leave behind. And here's what Joseph is doing. He's testing them to see, have they changed? Are they any different from how they were before? Because they just abandoned me, they left me, they turned their back on me. Are they still the same people? So he says, leave Simeon here. And he's going to know if they've changed because they'll come back for Simeon. If they just abandon him, then they're the same. He says, go bring Benjamin. And so they go back, they bring their youngest brother, they come back for Simeon, and Joseph sees that they've changed. There's a difference now in them. And when this happens, the scriptures say that Joseph wailed loudly from sorrow and from joy because he's now reunited with his brothers, and he reveals to them who he is. And then they're excited, they're ecstatic, and they go and get their father. Their father comes to live in Egypt, and now Joseph's whole family is living in Egypt under the guy who's second in command. But remember what Joseph's job is. Spreadsheets, data analysts, grain management. Here's a third takeaway that I want you to see about dreams. Dreams are never as sexy as I imagine. Dreams are never as sexy as I imagine. See, Joseph rises to power. He's second in command, but his job is grain management. He sees the dream fulfilled. This is what it was all about. This is what it was all about. You rise to a point of power and prestige, and you have all this at your disposal, but the job is, do we have enough grain? Dreams are never as sexy as I imagine. And I love how Dr. Stephen Sample talks about this in his book, The Contrarian Guide to Leadership. Dr. Stephen Sample wrote about this. He said, when I was 29, I won a fellowship from the American Council of Education, which would allow me to serve as an administrative intern under the president of Purdue University from 1970 to 1971. Now, at the time, he had just recently gotten promoted to associate professor of electrical engineering at Purdue, and this fellowship would allow him to advance his career from teaching to administration, and then perhaps one day president at a college. And this is the dream, right? This is the dream for the teacher to rise to be the president. It's a prestigious position. It's a place of honor. You're the president of the college, the president of the university. You're the man. You're the woman. But that's different from teaching. See, teaching is about investing in the students and learning and figuring and discovering things out, learning and figuring things out and discovering new things, and inspiring people and molding and shaping people's lives. That's teaching. That's the job of teaching. The job of president, though, is more administration. And once he got this fellowship, this opportunity to intern, here's what he wrote. He said, soon after the award was announced, I happened to bump into a colleague, Vern Newhouse, who was a highly respected senior member of the electrical engineering faculty. So, Sample, Newhouse said, I see you've won some sort of administrative fellowship to the president's office. Yeah, that's true, I said. And you'll be learning how to become an administrator. Well, I suppose so. And then you'll probably want to be president of a university somewhere down the road, huh? Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess I've thought about it now and then. I said disingenuously. Of course he thought about it. He wanted to be the president. And this was the path to get there. He smiled and said, personally, I've never had any ambition whatsoever to be an administrator. I'm totally inept at managing things. I mean, as you know, I can't even manage my secretary or my graduate students. But I've been a careful observer of ambitious men all my life. And here, for what it's worth, is what I've learned. Many men want to be president, but very few want to do president. And with that, he wished me well and walked away. He went on to say, my experience over the last 30 years tells me that Professor Newhouse was absolutely right. Some of the unhappiest people I know are those whose aspirations for a high-level leadership position are finally satisfied and who only then found out they didn't really want to do what it is that the position required. They wanted the position, but they didn't want to do it. They had spent several years clawing and scraping their way up the side of the mountain, and upon reaching their goal, discovered that the realities of life at the top were a far cry from when they had imagined them to be. See, everybody wants to be president, not everybody wants to do president. Everybody wants the power and the prestige that comes with the presidency. Everybody wants the paycheck that comes with the presidency. Everybody wants the honor and the fame that comes with being the president, but not everybody wants to raise millions of dollars for the university. That's doing president. Not everybody wants to stand up and make a statement when something's wrong at the university. That's doing president. Not everybody wants to shake everybody's hand on campus so they got a good relationship with them. That's doing president. See, oftentimes we want to be and not do. See, Joseph was elevated to second in command. But he's managing grain. Ugh, no thanks. See, sometimes the power, the prestige, the position that we want is great for accolades, but that's not really the thing that we want to do with our lives. And so I want to teach you this phrase, though. So it is good to know, in my dream, is that the thing I want to do? Like, I know I want to be that, but do I also want to do that? Everybody wants to be president, not everybody wants to do it. The other thing when it comes to pursuing our dreams is this. Dreams aren't as sexy as I imagine them to be. And so I want to teach you this phrase, and I want to remind myself of this phrase as well, because it's a good phrase to say when things aren't very sexy. See, I always had this dream to be a leader, to lead other people, to inspire other people, to help people meet Jesus and journey with him. And I've been pursuing that dream and living that dream ever since high school. When I was in high school, I started a Christian club at our school. And then later on in college, I changed my career course from wanting to be a journalist to being a pastor, a youth minister. So I went to Bible college at Mid-Atlantic Christian University. It's in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. And while I was there were times, though, because I want to be this youth minister, I got a job as a youth minister at a church in Greenville, North Carolina. So on the weekends, I would drive the 2-hour drive down to Greenville, North Carolina. It was a grind, but I did that every weekend. And then there was this one time where I was at this church in Greenville, North Carolina, and again, I'm from Hampton Roads here. I'm a little different from country folk, and so I went down to Greenville, North Carolina. I had piercings at the time. I dressed a little different at the time, and I remember I went to one of the elders, one of the leaders, family pig picking. I'd never been to a pig picking before, but I was there, and while I was there, one of his family members came up to him, and he pointed to me, and he said, "What is that?" And he wasn't talking about my piercings. He was talking about me. Like, he referred to me as a pronoun before pronouns were trendy, right? And I don't even identify that way, so I'm offended. But he looked at me and pointed, and he said, "What is that?" And that's me serving in this church in North Carolina. And then there were There were times too, there was this one time in my pursuit to live the dream and help people meet Jesus and become this youth minister, I did an internship at a church in Tampa, Florida. So I drove the 12 to 14 hours down to Tampa for the summer, and the first day I got there, my car got broken into while it's in the church parking lot, and my entire sound system was stolen from it. And then after I graduated from college, I did an internship at the church that I was eventually hired at. But I did this internship for a year. I think it was for free. I don't remember. I think I did a free internship for a whole year. And then eventually I was hired at $30,000 a year as a youth minister there. We're living on a single income. My wife and I, we just bought a house. We were struggling. Things were tough. We actually bought her first car. It was an Eagle Talon. That thing was a piece of junk, man. But I didn't know much about cars, so we paid $1,000 for this car. We bought it in North Carolina. We drove it up here to Virginia. Thank God we made it, because once we got here, the wheel fell off. Like, what happened was the upper control arm bent or broke or something like that, and the wheel fell off. And then we had a friend of their family fix it. He put a new upper control arm on it, but he didn't put a nut on it, and so it fell off again while she was driving. The thing didn't have AC. It was bad. And then there were times throughout doing youth ministry, seeing kids come to meet Jesus and their lives forever change. And then even in starting a church, and now this church, there have been times all throughout my journey of being this leader to inspire people and help people meet Jesus and journey with them. There have been times just all throughout this that have been great, where I've seen people give their lives to Christ, to be baptized, meet Jesus and journey with him, all these great, amazing things. But there have also been times where people have turned their back on me. There have been times where people got offended, where they took the bait of offense and got mad. There was a time that somebody misunderstood something I was saying, so he went to Facebook and he started making videos about me. There were times where we had grown close to some people, even gone on vacation with them, and then they just were mean and nasty after that, and that's happened for us. There have been times, even recently, where people have just gotten just misunderstanding about something, got offended about something, and then taking it out on me, taking it out on my wife. And it's like, when all this happens, here's what I gotta remind myself. Here's what you gotta remind yourself when things don't go the way you want, things don't go the way you hope, things don't go the way you dream. Here's what you gotta remember, because I'm pursuing this. Again, man, I wanna be somebody who helps people and inspires people and leads people to meet Jesus. This is the dream. When things don't go gloriously all the time, here's what you got to remind yourself. This is the dream. This is the dream. Me driving 2 hours down to this church in North Carolina, the drive sucked, but this is the dream. It's part of it. This is the dream. Somebody getting mad, somebody turning their back, somebody jumping to conclusions. This is the dream. That's part of it. Part of you pursuing the dream are the roadblocks that come in, the bumps that come in, all the stuff you don't want to deal with. This is the dream. The dream isn't always as sexy as I hope it's going to be. And when it's not sexy, you got to remind yourself, this too is the dream. This is the dream. And so we're going to practice this. I want to see if you get it. Here, say that with me. Say, this is the dream. This is the dream. There you go. Say it again. This is the dream. Okay, but you got to say it with more gusto than that. Because you got to believe it. You got to know it. Because when things suck, when things hit the fan, you just got to remind yourself, yes! And that's going to help you get through. So let's just try it. Let's just see if you believe it. There's going to be times where you're living the dream. And the dream is bad. Things are not going easy. And so you say, this is the dream. Here it is. You prayed to be a parent. And you got the kid. And the dream came true. And then what happens is the kid becomes a toddler. And even though you told them not to, they snuck the candy jar into their room and they ate all the candy. And now it's 3 a.m. and you wake up to sounds of vomiting. as the child is throwing up all over the bed. So you wake up tired, knowing you have to go to work the next day. And you got to clean sheets. You got to give the toddler a bath. You got to change clothes. And you know you're not going to get any sleep because the toddler's going to do it again probably in the next hour or so. And while you're cleaning the bed, while you're cleaning the clothes, you're going to say to yourself, it is. This is what you wanted. And this is part of it. Here, how about this? You made the decision. That's it. We're getting out of debt. No more. We're cutting up the credit cards. We're getting out of debt. We're doing whatever it takes. And then a day comes where you go to work and nothing goes right. Your boss is mad at you. You missed all this stuff. You're just feeling down and out. And instead of picking up your phone and shopping on Amazon to make you feel better, you're going to put it back down. Because you made a commitment to get out of debt. And then when you're on your way home, you're going to drive past all the fast food restaurants. It'd be so much easier to just stop and get you some nasty Taco Bell or whatever it is you like. It'd be so much easier, so much quicker, but you're getting out of debt. You're not spending money. You got leftovers at home. And so you get home and you take out the leftover spaghetti that's in the refrigerator, and you don't even like spaghetti, and you're wondering, why did I even make spaghetti in the first place? But you take out that leftover spaghetti, you heat it up, and the center of it is cold, and the edges are inferno, on fire, hot. You know how it is. You stir it around, and then you put some tepid water in a cup, and you sit down in front of your meal, and as you begin to eat your spaghetti, you say to yourself, yeah, it is, because you got a dream to get out of debt, and you're going to do whatever it takes, and this sucks, but hey, this too is the dream. You wanted to get married. You prayed to get married, and when you dated, it was so perfect. She always did her hair and makeup. He was always so spiritual and leading and kind and showed up with flowers. I mean, everything was great. And then you got married. This is the person you prayed that you would have, and now you have them. And what's going to happen? This week, you're going to sit here. He's going to sit here on the couch. As you pull up Netflix to see the next episode in whatever show you're watching, opposite ends of the couch. And then you're going to look over and she's going to be wearing oversized flannel pajama bottoms, a shirt you think she got in college at some point, I don't know. And ladies, you're going to look over at your husband, and he is going to literally set his beer on his belly. And you're going to look at each other, and with all the gusto and bravado you can muster, you're going to say, yeah, it is. This is the dream. And sometimes the dream isn't as sexy as you hoped it would be. See, dreams make you different. Dreams require pain. Dreams are never as sexy as I imagined. One final takeaway. Joseph brings his whole family to Egypt. And then after he brings them to Egypt, eventually his dad dies. And his brothers say, okay, now that our dad is dead, he's going to take out his vengeance on us. He's going to kill us. And so they're afraid of that, and they bring that up to him. But here's what Joseph says. Don't be afraid of me. Am I God that I can punish you? You intended to harm me, but God intended it all for good. He brought me to this position so that I could save the lives of many people. Here's what we find with Joseph. In the very beginning, Joseph had this dream, and it seems like it's all about him. Hey, you're going to bow down to me. But now he's suffered. He's been through some things. And what he realizes is that the dream is not about him, it's about God. Here's the fourth takeaway. Dreams are about God, not me. Dreams are about God, not me. And so as we talk about dreams and get real with dreams, I hope you don't take away the wrong takeaway from today. This is not go chase your selfish ambitions, your selfish dreams, go live for you or whatever. No. It's what is the God-given dream God has placed inside of you. It's time for you to chase that. It's time for you to pursue that. It's time for you to live that out. What is the holy discontent that you have where you say, this should not be, this has got to change, this needs to be different? What is the God-sized dream that you have? It's time to pursue it. Is it to become a missionary in a third world country? Is it to become a missionary here in our country? What's the God-sized dream God has given you? What's the dream that you have? Is it to start a church? Is it to lead a church? Is it to lead teenagers? Is it to invest in? What is the God-sized dream that God has given you? Do you dream of helping struggling couples? Maybe it's investing in college students or listening to single people, letting them know just because you're single doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. What is the dream God has given you? Maybe it's to quit your job like Dallas Stamford did. He was an engineer at GE, and he was sitting in a church service one day and heard about how Jesus hung out with homeless people. He said, we don't even know any homeless people. So that day, him and his wife made some sandwiches. They went down to the ocean front. They met some homeless people and made some friends. Eventually, he quit his job and he started Penn Ministry, stands for People in Need. And that's a ministry that ministers to the homeless here in Virginia Beach now. What is the dream God has given you? Maybe the dream that you have is to visit the elderly in nursing homes so they know that they're not forgotten about. Maybe it's to become a doctor, not to make millions, but to work on mercy ships or to go to underserved areas around the world and help people with their health. Maybe it's to start a Christian club at your high school. Maybe it's changing your career to become a student ministry pastor. Maybe it's changing your career to do something you've never done before, but it's this dream that's stirred up in you. Maybe the dream is that you partner with one child and you adopt a kid in the Dominican Republic. So we partner with one child and you say, we're going to sponsor a kid in the Dominican Republic, and then we're going to raise money to organize a trip over there to see them. What is the dream that you have? Maybe the dream is to team up with Fathers in the Field, which is an organization where men step up and they help single moms and they become a dad, not literally, but become a father figure to boys who don't have fathers, to teach them and show them what it means to grow up and be a godly man. What is the dream that you have? You have a dream of having children and rearing godly, Christ-centered kids. What is your dream? Do you have a dream that people will approach you in 40 years and say, we see that you have a Christ-centered marriage. Can you please help us? What's your dream? Do you have a dream of baptizing your friend, baptizing your kids? What is your dream? What is the dream God has given you that you need to begin to pursue? I want to give you a moment to act on this, because a dream that's not voiced dies. If you're going to see the dream come to fruition, here's the point: I've got to voice it. What is the dream God has given you? I want to give you a moment to voice it. Here's what I want to invite you to do. Right now, take your phone out, and I want you to email me your dream. I want you to email me your dream. What is it? What is the dream that you have that you need to act on? And I want you to email it to me so I can pray for you, that God would give you the boldness to move, the vision, the clarity, everything you need to move forward in this. What is the dream that you have? Would you email it to me? And maybe you need a few minutes to think about it, but what is the dream that you have? Maybe it's to finally branch out and start that business, or be the first person in your family to actually have a successful marriage. Maybe it's to adopt a kid. Maybe it's to make an impact in public schools here in the area. Maybe it's to give away $1 million one day. Maybe it's to finish well. Maybe it is to baptize your child. What is the dream that you have? Would you just take a moment and email that to me? And that's you giving voice to your dreams. I'm not going to share this with anybody. I'm not going to judge you on it. I just want to see it so I can pray for you. for boldness, for conviction, for strength to see it through, because it's time to take a step towards it. You know, throughout this series, we've been talking about being real about family, real about sin, real about all sorts of things. And it's time that we got to get real about our dreams. Because when we get real about our dreams, we will discover the more that we were made for. See, throughout this series, we've been going back to this imagery of bloodstained pews, and it's centered around this church in Angeville, France, where two men, Kenneth Moore and Robert Wright, were dropped in on D-Day, and they came across this church, and they used it as a makeshift hospital where they brought people in, soldiers who were wounded and injured. As they brought them in and worked on them and saved their lives, they bled on the pews. And what that church did, after the war and all that, it came time to rebuild and just make this church functional again. What they did when they came to the pews is they didn't sand down the pews to get rid of the blood. They didn't replace the pews. Instead, they glossed over the blood, a clear coat, to preserve them forever. But the sad thing about that church now is it's become a museum of what was. As we've done this series, we've said we want to be the church of the bloodstained pews because the truth is everybody is bleeding, everybody is broken, everybody is hurting. And we want this to be a place where you come not wearing a mask, but where you come and you're able to bleed openly, to be real and vulnerable. And so we want to be the church of the bloodstained pews. And so here's my dream for this church. That this church would never become a museum to what was. This church journey would continue to be a mission full of bloodstained pews.
Here's a noteworthy thing about this whole bloodstained pews story that happened on D-Day, is when you think about it, Privates Moore and Wright could have justifiably stopped risking their lives at almost any point. I mean, in total, they saved some 80 men that night in this church, but the reality is they could have easily stopped at 20. I mean, 30, 40, they could have, I'm sure they were busy, they could have patted themselves on the back and said, hey, we're busy enough, we can't go help more people, these pews are full. But they said, no. We are here to rescue the dying and the hurting and the broken. That's why we dropped into France and are part of this mission so we can save lives. We got to go risk ours so that others can find theirs. And so in turn, they kept going out and bullets kept going by their ears and the blast of machine gun fire was heard throughout the night, but they said we must do whatever it takes to go find those who are hurting, who need our help. And I love that imagery. And it's so striking and sad when you compare it to what this church is today. Because today, this beautiful old church is a museum. And it's a cool museum, and I love the story it represents, but it's not a functioning church anymore. It's a museum to what was instead of a mission for what can be. And so they have donation boxes and postcards you can buy, and I think that's great to honor and respect what was done here, but we've lost the point of what this building was constructed to be. And so it is on us, the people who call ourselves the church, to not lose what the church is about. It's about seeing the lost and broken come home to Jesus by repenting and being baptized. Take that step if you haven't. And it's about those of us who follow Jesus to go out into a lost and dying and broken world and saying, we have hope and we have found the healer. and we know where you can get healed. So come and see the grace and truth of Jesus come into this great, messy, yet beautiful community we call the church, where you can bleed openly, where you can find hope, where you can find healing, and where you can join the mission of risking your life so that others too may be saved. May we never stop being a church of the bloodstained pews. May we never stop seeking and saving those who are lost. May we always continue to live out the mission of Jesus.
Yeah. And so us being a church of bloodstained pews, it's not something that we can program. It's not something we can sing in a worship song. It's really something that happens when we take the step to be vulnerable and real. For us to be this kind of church of bloodstained pews, it means that we need to be open and vulnerable and real, and it begins with each and every one of us doing that. And so I've asked some people who have been in this journey with us throughout the series and in groups and throughout, just to come join me on stage and just share some of their experience from this series about being open and real and vulnerable. And so as we've gone through this series, what's been something that stood out to you, that's been meaningful to you? Just some takeaways that you got from this series.
Well, the main takeaway that I've got from this series is about being real. I think each and every part of this series really highlighted that in different ways. Sometimes being real isn't always as easy as we'd like it to be, and sometimes it's a problem. I actually had a really good friend of mine call me out on this one time. He asked me how I was doing, and I told him I'm good. He's like, no, you're not. Your dad's dying, you're going through a divorce, you're living with your friends, you're sharing a bathroom with 3 kids and a cat. You're not doing good. He was that friend, by the way. And he was so right. It was like, you know what? It's really easy for me to not be real. Now, if I'm talking about something I went through 10 years ago, that's easy. I'll tell you all about that and how I got through it. Woohoo! But if it's something I'm going through this morning, I find it hard to be real sometimes. And I think it's so important. And I think that was probably my biggest takeaway, was the importance of being real.
That's good. I love it. Thanks, Jeremy.
The biggest takeaways that I got from this series are 2. There was a big mindset shift. I think I had a destination sort of a mindset, and then through this series, God is reminding me that loving Him and following Him and being a part of the church and healing and the revelation that comes through sharing and allowing light to come into those spaces is a process.
Yeah.
And that this series was a great opportunity to see that and to do it in real time with people who are willing to follow Him, love Him, and be real with each other.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks, Carrie. You said people who are willing to. Not everybody's willing to. So I love it that you've been willing to be open and real on this journey throughout. Yeah, I love it. You know, as we've done this series, we also had groups that we've had these journey groups that have been meeting, and we have a group meeting tomorrow. And so so as you've engaged in the groups, what have been some takeaways from you? Like what, Rick, Carrie, I'll have you guys share on this. What have been, just some great takeaways from the group portion of this series?
I think for me, we had one of our group sessions where we were talking about things in our lives that were difficult for us. And one of mine is my relationship with my daughter. And we did an exercise where we had David on one side of me and Irene on the other side. And then I think we went to...
I think we switched it out to TJ, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, to TJ. And one was pulling me to a positive direction and the other one pulling me to a negative direction. And it just kind of made me realize that this is what we struggle with in our lives, that we have good things and we have difficult things, challenges.
Yeah.
And you know, it's not always easy, but we have to be vulnerable at times to recognize the difficult part, because the easy part we can all do. It's the difficult part that the challenges come from.
This is the dream.
Yeah.
This is the dream.
That's it. And you have to feel that tension physically in
I
the
felt
group.
it, 'cause
Yeah.
I think Dave was just about to pull me down to the ground.
Pulling you. Yeah.
I don't play no games.
Nice. Yeah, Carrie, what was a takeaway for you for groups?
As someone who tends to hide or like to not reveal everything, this was a very personal and very practical way of God showing that when things are brought into the light, that He will send people and cover it with enough grace when you decide to trust Him in that.
Yeah. This is especially challenging for you because you're a group leader.
Yeah.
And I asked you to lead the way
Yeah.
in being open and real. And as somebody who likes to hide and not share that stuff, man, it was a big step for you to step up and get out of your comfort zone. And so, yeah, I really appreciate that. And it's so true, I think, that inspiration happens in rows like this, but transformation takes place in circles. That's why we do groups, to take what people get in here to the next level, to really see that transformation take place. Because after this, probably most of you are going to forget what we even talked about. You're going to go to lunch, whatever it is. Maybe it'll stick with you. I don't know. But when you get in a group, now you're experimenting with this with other people and experiencing it with other people. And it starts to get even more real for you. And that's where you start to see the change in your life. Probably the difference is like when you get in a group, it's like you're taking steroids. I don't know if that was good. Anyway, so we've done, so throughout this series, man, we've been talking about being real, and I don't do steroids, by the way. I'd probably be a lot bigger if I
I was going to
did.
ask.
Yeah.
But I didn't. You beat it.
Right,
me to
I'd be
it.
a lot bigger if I did. Anyway, but throughout this series, we've been real on Sunday mornings in groups, but also some of the processes that we've done have been inspired from some experiences that we've had through Crucible. And so I've talked about Crucible, this initial weekend getaway for men and also for women. There's 2 different weekends. But I went for the first time in the summer of 2019. It transformed my life. And I came back and I was talking to all kinds of different people about it. And Dave, eventually you went to Crucible December of 2021. Jeremy, you just went in 2022. And Irene, you just went this past year. So tell us a little bit. So I've talked about Crucible and the impact that it's made, and I highly recommend everybody goes to it, at least checks it out, the Crucible Project. You can just Google that. But tell us about your experience with Crucible.
Irene, do you want to go? You just went.
Oh, yeah, sure. So I went this past April, and at first I was really scared, but I've seen the changes in my husband and other people who went. So I was like, I'll give it a shot. And I really just went because I wanted to figure out why I hesitate a lot or why I stuff my feelings. And I just wanted to deal with my crap. You know, everybody has crap, and I want to deal with it. And yeah, going to Crucible, I feel like I definitely dealt with my crap. And
You want to say something else, don't you?
Yeah.
Real true.
We'll censor it. We'll censor it. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, dealt with it and figured out why I stuffed my feelings, and it all boiled down to, even in my childhood, why I thought sadness and anger were bad to feel, and that's why I stuffed it. But I realized, no, those are good to have and to cope with it. And another big thing that I learned was that I felt like I always had to do good to earn God's grace and His goodness, and I always knew that. Like, I would tell people, yeah, God loves you, God's grace covers you, but it was that weekend when I actually believed it for myself.
Yeah,
So,
that's good. And you came back more free.
yes, definitely more free.
Yeah.
And more just being okay with who I am.
Yeah,
So,
that's good.
Didn't it also inspire you for some ideas to get tattoo sleeves? To get it all the way up? Okay.
Irene's going to get a sleeve this year. Like, she's getting her whole arm tattooed from that. So that's another thing, too. And that's what happened. That's why I got these sleeves. It was all inspired by Crucible. So be warned, if you go to Crucible, you might very well get tattoos all over the place.
Pretty soon you get a neck tat, you know?
Yeah.
Because I'm cool.
Facts. Facts. He is cool.
Nice. Yeah, so tell us about your experience.
Sure, I'll go. Listen to Irene talk about like her why and why she went. For me, I went because he wouldn't stop talking about it. When he first came back from Crucible, I was like, okay, please stop talking about it. It's a lot. But then eventually I went and I was like, oh, this is why you always talk about it, because you get a whole lot of things from it. But I went in 2021, and for me, when I went, it was more of a, I don't really know what else to do. But I want to be better. I didn't know what particular thing that was. I didn't have a why of like, well, I want to know why I do this, or I want to know where this comes from. I didn't know. I just knew I'd seen changes in him, and I was like, maybe this is where I can find that. So when I was there, a lot of it was scary, because if you go, the one thing I will say is if you go, like if you make the decision to go, you have to go and you have to say, I'm all in. Whatever happens, I'm all in, because if you hold back, you're not going to get anything out of it. You might get a few things maybe, but man, to get the most out of it, you have to jump in with both feet and just say, is presented, whatever we're doing, I'm here, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to give it my all. And so that was my mentality going to do it. I was like, I'm going to do this. And what I learned about me was I was carrying so much weight that belonged to other people. I was carrying the weight of what affected other people, what affected people in my family, and so that the way that they would behave and the way that they would operate, I was carrying that as if it was my responsibility to carry those things. It was my responsibility to carry the weight of, how my parents, they had been together for years, and after 25 years of marriage, they divorced, and I was carrying that weight. Has nothing to do with me, and I was carrying all of that. Was carrying the weight of stuff that happened to my brother when we were in ministry together, stuff that happened to him that it was going on right beside me and I wasn't aware of it. I was carrying that weight. And so I learned that a lot of the stuff that I was carrying didn't have anything to do with me, and I didn't have to carry that weight anymore. And it was through going to Crucible, engaging in the exercises that they had, but then also after that, continuing the work and building a container and a community with some of the other men that I went through the weekend with, and continuing to do the work from that, because it's not an end-all, be-all weekend. It's not something where you go and in 2.5 days you're going to figure all your stuff out and you're good. A lot of it was just, hey, here's the big issue that you have. Congratulations, go home and do work on that. But there's also a community now that you have of people that you can do the work with together. And so we have this community here where we've been able to do that through groups, but even through some of the containers that I've built with those men who I do meetings with online and stuff, still continuing to do that work. And so that was really freeing for me. I felt light after coming from that weekend. And I mean, I could keep going on, but that was a big one for me.
Yeah, so a lot of you guys are hearing about the Crucible. Here we are talking about it, and you're probably going to be asking us, well, what do you do? It is actually kind of secretive. It's kind of like Fight Club. It's kind of like what happens there, we can't tell you all the details of it, but I'll tell you, when Pastor James went, I saw this shift in him as a man. I saw it, I sensed it. I know him very well, and it was real. And then when Dave went, and Dave's a good critic, by the way. If you ever want to get a good rating on something, and Dave had a really good experience. I could trust Greg's, Dave's critic.
I don't know what that means, but I'll take it as a compliment.
He means it in the best way possible. You are
Dave's
an
a
amazing
good critic.
critic.
I don't hold back.
In other words, if it was a waste of time and money, Dave would have told me, okay?
Straight up.
Yeah.
Straight up. He wouldn't have held back on that. So based on his reaction, I went in there with some trust, because I'll tell you what, here's what I will tell you. It was not what I expected. I was like,
That's true.
Did you guys feel that way too? Like,
Yeah.
what is
1,000%.
going on?
Yeah.
Well, I leaned into the trust of these two men here that I'm in the right place, and I'm gonna make this work. And I'll tell you what, I got to know myself better as a man than I ever have. And the way that I think, the way that I think a lot of us have these limiting beliefs that it's hard to recognize without help, without an outside perspective, without the Crucible Project. So I walked away from that a completely different man. I didn't get any tattoos, but I got this necklace.
Yeah.
Yet.
There you go.
So yeah, I highly recommend the Crucible Project.
Yeah.
It was a great experience.
Can I add one more too?
Yeah.
And it may be painful to go deep and dig deep and go in your shadows, but it's so freeing on the other side. So, and that's what we experienced.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you got to face the fire to find your gold. And that's scary at first, but you're right. It's so freeing on the other side. And I hear rumors that maybe Carrie and Rick are thinking about Crucible. So
Gang.
I've said it from stage, so it's official. You're at least thinking about it. But hey, I want to highly recommend that you check out the Crucible Project. It's not something that we can reproduce here on a Sunday or in a group or anything like that. It's just a whole experience that you got to have for yourself, and it is transformative. But throughout this series, man, we have been working on being vulnerable and real and open, because when we do that, we become the church. And that's what the church is. The church is a mission of people who are vulnerable and real and open with one another. The church is a hospital for the hurting, and the truth is all of us are hurting from past experiences, present realities, and even future fears. But we want to be the church of the bloodstained pews. And here's what I think your next step is, because I think everybody has a next step. But if you're not a Christian, I think your next step is to say yes to Jesus, to say yes to following him and going all in with him and being baptized into him. Here's my dream for you. If you don't know Jesus, this summer you would get baptized. My dream is that this summer you would make the decision to say yes to Jesus and be baptized into him. And you can make that decision today. Through our app, you can fill out this Connect form that we have. Let us know. I want to get baptized. We'll answer any questions that you have. We'll talk to you about taking steps forward to make that happen. But that's where it begins for you, saying yes to Jesus and going all in with him, because he's going to lead you on this journey of being open and real and vulnerable. And if you have said yes to Jesus, here's what I just want to encourage you to do, to take communion. So we have communion on the chairs right now, and I want to give you an opportunity right now to just stop and remember the grace and love God has given you. That you're not alone. He's given you some big dreams. There's more for you to discover. So I invite you right now, go ahead and take that out. There's a piece of bread there that reminds us of Jesus' body that's broken for us. There's a juice there that reminds us of his blood that was shed for us. As you take communion right now, would you just be reminded or maybe discover for the first time, God has a dream for your life. And he died so you could discover the dream and live the dream. If you're living the dream now and it's not as sexy as you thought it would be, remind yourself this is the dream. Keep going, keep pressing. There's going to be some pain involved. But it's because of communion that we can come and be reminded that we're not alone, but we have a Savior who loves us and walks with us and guides us. And so now would you just pray with me? God, thank you for your grace and your mercy and your love. We are not alone. You are with us and you love us. So God, give us the persistence to continue on, to push through the pain, the boldness to step out and do the hard thing, to chase the dream. God, some of us have given up on the dream, but I pray that today you would reignite a passion within us. You would reignite a fire within us to pursue the dream that you have given us, to make our life worth more than what it is right now. and you walk with us and go with us and cheer us on and encourage us. God, we are leaning on you and we need you to see the dream come to fruition. Today's the day that we step out. Today's the day, in Jesus' name. Amen.